We're Daybreak Plus, continuing that breaking news we brought you all morning long over on Daybreak this morning.
Well, an Austin police officer injured in a shooting this morning. All of this happened near Barton Springs Road and Azzy Morton Road.
KVUE's Michael Courier has been live at the scene. You can see still a very heavy police presence behind you. Michael, what have you learned and what is the scene there like near Zilker Park this morning?
Yeah, they just keep coming. We continue to see more law enforcement make their way here, the K-9 police unit. We have started to see more SWAT. Behind me, you can see really hundreds of police vehicles down there. We have seen state troopers here as well as the fire department. You can see just how many vehicles are here as well as the helicopter that has continued circling around Zilker Park area. An Austin police officer was shot and he is in the hospital. The officer is expected to survive. Now officers, they're trying to find the man accused of shooting him. More members of SWAT have arrived here. This all took place near Zilker Park in South Austin. They are closing the intersection where we were earlier at Barton Springs Road and Azzy Morton Road, so that is shut off completely. Now, according to the Austin Police Department, the officer was shot on Azzy Morton Road. One other person was also injured, according to law enforcement. Police say they are now looking for a white man wearing a green shirt and tan pants. There is an alert that is sent out for people who live in the Zilker Park area to shelter in place and to avoid the area because the suspect is considered armed and dangerous. Again, APD is saying the shelter in place has not been lifted. Drivers are also asked to avoid the area the best that you can, as we're just seeing all law enforcement making their way here on Barton Springs Road. We're not seeing any civilians able to make their way through here as this investigation and this search is still taking place. Again, we're seeing SWAT, the K-9, fire department, state troopers, and also the helicopter circling around as they're still searching for the suspect in the Zilker Park area. For now, reporting in South Austin, Michael Courier, KVUE News.
Michael, obviously you're there on the scene. I know it's kind of closed off, so people who live in that area, you can't talk to them. But what are you noticing as far as was just with the police presence? I'm sure you heard the helicopter at one point.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like this. This is such a heavy law enforcement presence that I have never seen this many, and at this magnitude. We're seeing multiple SWAT vehicles here, all of the state troopers, all of the Austin Police Department, as well as fire department. So this really looks like a all hands on deck as they're trying to really find this person that is suspected of shooting that officer that is in the hospital at this time.
Michael, is it urgent? Are they still searching that area near where you are? How far are you from where this all happened?
Yes. We're about 100 yards or so away from the intersection that they're telling everyone to avoid at Azzy Morton Road and Barton Springs Road. I spoke to an officer that was over there about half hour ago. I told him where are we at when it comes to the search for the suspect. He says it is still very active, and you can certainly tell with the helicopter right above me, kind of staying in that area at this time, circling around the Zilker Park area. So yes, this is still a very active situation ongoing.
All right, Michael, be safe out there. You can hear it. Very active scene. We appreciate that. Let's bring in senior reporter Tony Plahetsky, who's also working to find out the details.
Tony, you're on the phone with us now. Thanks again for joining us. Tell us the very latest. You had a lot of information this morning. Most importantly, the officer that was shot is in the hospital but expected to survive. Let's start with that.
Yeah, and to be clear, that information is coming from Michael Bullock, who is the president of the Austin Police Association. Of course, he has been briefed on the condition of the police officer this morning. I can also tell you that at the hospital is Austin Police Chief Lisa Davis, who is, of course, supporting that officer. A number of his colleagues are there as well. But the another part of the APD administration is, of course, at the scene, helping to coordinate, as Michael described, as this massive now search and growing search for this gunman. Authorities say that shelter in place does remain in effect in that area this morning, and so they are still urging people as best they can to not leave their homes and to certainly be mindful. But to Michael's point, this is a search that now involves a hunt for this person by both air and by ground. I can tell you that in terms of the coordination of all of this, a number of officers from other parts of the city who are working patrol in other parts of the city have been called to the scene as well to aid in the search for this person, of course, who is believed to be armed and dangerous, and who, from what I understand, through preliminary information this morning, opened fire on this officer and on police without any sort of provocation. That, according to the preliminary information I received, police may have thought that this gunman was in a stolen car, approached, and that is when gunfire rang out this morning.
Now, Tony, you mentioned that person considered armed and dangerous. All we know is a white male with a green shirt and tan pants. That's who they're looking for, correct?
That is correct. And it's important to note that there is also a person who has been taken to the hospital as well, may have been shot also. Authorities still this morning are trying to piece together what that person's connection is in all of this. That is part of the investigation and one of the things that they are trying to figure out. But the people who I've been in contact with at the scene, they say the foremost effort, rather than get all of those details and sort through them, is, of course, trying to find this gunman, because they do believe, again, that he is armed and dangerous and could be potentially causing a public safety threat, particularly as he could possibly become more desperate as law enforcement ups their search efforts to put this person under arrest and get him into custody.
And Tony, in light of that, we had received messages from viewers in that area that the shelter in place had been lifted, but now APD is saying the shelter in place in that area surrounding Zilker Park is still in effect there. So police are saying continue to stay clear of the area, and then of course call 911 if you see anybody suspicious. Any idea what happened there? Was that an inadvertent release by the policeman?
That is a very important question, and of course, Brian, something that is going to have to be sorted out. I mean, you certainly don't want, and I received the same notification, frankly, and I've been talking to residents in that area as well. They also received a notification that the shelter in place had been lifted. We saw within just moments after that, though, that the police said, no, that the search for the gunman continues. And I can tell you, I've just literally hung up with someone who said, absolutely not. This gunman is not in custody. We still believe that he may very much still be in that area. And so therefore, people do need to continue to abide by the shelter in place order. But Brian and Yvonne, to your point, much will be, discussed after the fact about how that seeming communication snafu occurred. Because again, when public safety is at risk, you don't want any kind of miscommunication that could seemingly tell the public that all is well, when in fact it is not. But the bottom line is the person is not in custody at this time, and people in that area are still being instructed to shelter in place. And again, should they see someone who looks suspicious, to urgently call 911.
That's a very important point. I know some of our viewers were like, no, we got the text. It says, shelter in place has been lifted, but it's so important that everyone do not let your guard down. You can see very active scene as we're looking at live pictures here. You could hear the helicopter at one point. You can see an active scene. They are still searching for that suspect considered armed and dangerous at this time.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Tony. We'll check back in with you in just a minute. Again, a very active investigation. Keep it here to Daybreak Plus. We're going to keep you updated on the situation as things continue to transpire. Of course, we'll let you, our viewer on Daybreak Plus, know.